You won't believe what just happened in the world of reality TV. Melody Shari, the queen of love and marriage, Huntsville, finally decided she had enough. For years, fans sensed there was something off between her and Carlos King, the mastermind behind some of the biggest reality TV hits. But no one expected the truth to be this shocking. After staying silent for so long, Melody came forward with jaw-dropping claims that changed everything. And let me tell you, this is where it gets really interesting. Melody didn't just talk about creative differences or simple disagreements. No, this was much bigger. She exposed Carlos King for allegedly manipulating her, lying to her, and even turning people against her. It wasn't just a producer versus star conflict. This was personal. The craziest part, she claimed Carlos was controlling her life behind the scenes, deciding how she would be seen by the world and using her story for his own gain. Fans always thought Melody was the strong, independent businesswoman she portrayed on the show. But according to her, Carlos had been pulling the strings all along, making sure she played the role that suited his vision. For years, there were whispers. People noticed the tension between Melody and Carlos, but no one knew how deep it went. Every time Melody tried to rise, there was something or someone holding her back. She hinted at it before, but she never spoke openly. And then, out of nowhere, she finally broke her silence. She took to social media and dropped a bombshell that no one saw coming. She called out Carlos by name, exposing what she called his pattern of deception. She revealed that Carlos didn't just twist storylines, he twisted real-life relationships. He allegedly made her out to be the villain, planting ideas in the minds of cast members and fans, all to create drama that would keep viewers hooked. And guess what? It worked. For years, fans turned against Melody, believing the version of her they saw on TV. But now, she wanted everyone to know the truth. Carlos, she claimed, had been the puppet master all along, playing both sides, feeding lies to the media, and making sure she never had full control over her own narrative. But here's the shocking part. According to Melody, this wasn't just about the show. Carlos's influence went beyond TV. She said he interfered with her real life, her business deals, her friendships, even her personal brand. Every time she tried to take control of her success, she claimed Carlos was there, making sure things didn't go the way she planned. She called it a betrayal unlike anything she had ever experienced. "I trusted him," she wrote, "but he was using me the entire time." And then came the biggest revelation yet. Melody accused Carlos of lying, not just to her, but to the entire cast. She said he promised her things he never planned to deliver. He allegedly told her he would support her projects, give her more control, and let her tell her own story. But every time, he pulled back, making decisions that only benefited him. And when she finally confronted him, he turned on her. The truth was out now, and fans were left in shock. Some had always suspected something was going on, but no one thought it was this bad. Melody's words spread like wildfire, and within hours, the internet exploded with reactions. Supporters rallied behind her, demanding answers. Others weren't so sure. Was this just another case of reality TV drama spilling over into real life? Or was Melody finally exposing the dark side of an industry that thrived on manipulation? But this is where it gets even more interesting. Just when fans thought they had heard it all, Melody dropped another bombshell. Carlos King didn't just manipulate the show. He allegedly controlled who succeeded and who failed. She claimed that behind the scenes, Carlos played favorites, deciding who would get the best storylines, the biggest opportunities, and the most screen time. And if you weren't on his good side, you were out. Melody said she was one of the people he tried to push out. She revealed that Carlos allegedly spread false rumors about her, making her look difficult to work with. She claimed that whenever she tried to speak up or challenge his decisions, things suddenly started going wrong for her. Business deals fell through. Her reputation took hits. Cast members turned against her. And all of it, she believed, led back to Carlos pulling the strings. And let me tell you, this was no small accusation. Carlos King had built his entire career on shaping reality TV into what it is today. He had a reputation for knowing exactly how to create drama, how to keep viewers engaged, and how to make reality stars into household names. But Melody's claims painted a very different picture. According to her, Carlos wasn't just producing drama, he was creating it, manipulating real people's lives just to keep his shows on top. And then came the craziest part. Melody said she wasn't the only one. She claimed other cast members had also been manipulated, but were too afraid to speak out. She hinted that some stars had been pressured into acting a certain way, forced into conflicts they didn't want, and even made to look bad just for the sake of entertainment. She wrote, "You think you know the truth because you watch the show, but let me tell you, you have no idea what happens behind the scenes." Fans were left speechless. If what Melody said was true, then Love and Marriage, Huntsville wasn't just reality TV. It was manufactured reality, controlled by one man who decided who won and who lost. But here's where destiny took an unexpected turn. Melody's revelation didn't just put Carlos in the hot seat, it started exposing cracks in the entire Love and Marriage franchise. Viewers began rewatching old episodes looking for signs of manipulation. They started questioning past conflicts, wondering if some of the biggest fights and betrayals on the show had been scripted by Carlos himself. And as more people dug into the story, whispers started spreading that other reality TV stars from Carlos's past projects had similar experiences. Could it be that Melody's truth was only the beginning? But Carlos wasn't going to let this story take him down without a fight. After Melody's shocking revelations, he finally broke his silence. And instead of apologizing or addressing her accusations, he denied everything. He took to social media and fired back, calling Melody's claims completely false and a desperate attempt for attention. He insisted that he had never manipulated anyone and that the drama Melody was talking about was just a part of reality TV. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Fans didn't believe him. Instead of shutting down the controversy, Carlos's response only made things worse. People started calling him out for not addressing Melody's specific accusations. He kept talking about how successful the show was, how hard he worked, and how much he had done for the cast. But he never actually denied the core claims Melody had made about his manipulation and lies. And just like that, the tables had turned. For the first time, Carlos King, the man who had shaped so many reality TV stories, was now the villain in his own real-life scandal. Fans demanded more answers, cast members were forced to pick sides, and the entire Love and Marriage universe was shaken like never before. But here is the shocking part. Carlos King wasn't just facing backlash from fans. Industry insiders started speaking up, and what they revealed made this entire situation even messier. Rumors started flying that Melody wasn't the first reality star to have these issues with Carlos. Other people who had worked with him before began hinting at similar experiences. Some former cast members from his past shows started liking and sharing posts that supported Melody's claims. A few even made vague comments about their own run-ins with him, saying they weren't surprised by what was coming out. And then things took an even wilder turn. One of Carlos's former associates, someone who had worked closely with him behind the scenes, came forward with a cryptic message. They posted, "Y'all have no idea how deep this goes. Melody ain't lying." That was all they said, but it was enough to send social media into a frenzy. People started digging deeper, looking for any past signs that Carlos had a history of behind-the-scenes manipulation. Old interviews resurfaced. Past reality TV stars were suddenly being flooded with questions. And then, just when it seemed like things couldn't get any crazier, an anonymous source claimed that there were even more secrets about Carlos that hadn't come out yet. Let me tell you, this is where the story really took a turn. Fans demanded that other cast members from Love and Marriage, Huntsville, speak out. People wanted to know, were they really victims of Carlos's control? Had they been forced into drama they never wanted? had their careers been affected just like Melody's. And while some cast members stayed quiet, others started dropping hints. One of them made a post that said, "The truth always comes out in the end." Another one wrote, "If only y'all knew the half of it." These weren't full-blown accusations, but they were enough to make people think that Melody wasn't alone. And the craziest part, Carlos King was suddenly silent. For someone who had spent years controlling the narrative, producing drama, and staying in the public eye, this silence was louder than any statement he could have made. Fans noticed that he stopped responding directly to Melody's claims. He stopped addressing the controversy altogether. And that only made people more suspicious. Was he trying to avoid making things worse? Was he scared that if he said too much, even more people would come forward? Or was he working behind the scenes to shut down the drama before it spiraled completely out of control? Whatever the case, one thing was clear. Carlos King's untouchable image had been shattered. And Melody, she wasn't backing down. She continued to speak out, gaining even more support as more people started believing her. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse for Carlos, a huge new development happened, one that completely changed everything. This is where it gets interesting because Carlos King's troubles were far from over. Just when people thought the drama had reached its peak, a bombshell dropped that no one saw coming. An insider source, someone who claimed to have direct knowledge of Carlos's reality TV dealings, came forward with a shocking reveal. According to them, Carlos had allegedly been orchestrating drama behind the scenes for years, and not just with Melody. They claimed he had a pattern of pitting cast members against each other, controlling narratives, and even spreading false information to the media to shape public perception. You won't believe this, but the source even suggested that Carlos had deliberately leaked certain stories about Melody to make her look bad. And not just her, other reality stars who had worked with him before. The whole thing was allegedly part of a bigger game, a way to keep ratings high while making sure he was the one controlling everything. But here's the shocking part. Receipts started surfacing. Screenshots, old messages, and behind-the-scenes recordings began making their way online. Some of them showed Carlos allegedly having conversations with certain cast members, encouraging them to stir up drama with Melody. Others hinted that he had been feeding false information to bloggers and media outlets to control public perception of the show's cast. And then, an even bigger twist, someone close to Melody stepped in and confirmed what she had been saying all along. They backed up her claims, saying that they had personally witnessed Carlos's manipulation behind the scenes. They described moments where he had twisted stories, changed timelines, and even edited footage in a way that made certain people look worse than they actually were. At this point, fans were in shock. Many had suspected reality TV wasn't always real, but to hear that it was this calculated, that Carlos had this much power over how things were portrayed, it was mind-blowing. And the craziest part, some of the network executives were allegedly aware of it. This is where things really took a turn. Fans started calling out the network, demanding answers. If Carlos had been manipulating things behind the scenes this much, why hadn't they stepped in? Were they in on it? Or had they just ignored it because the drama brought in ratings? One thing was clear, Carlos was in serious trouble, and the pressure was mounting. His reputation had already taken a massive hit, but now, with more people speaking out and more evidence coming to light, things were spiraling fast. And then, just when everyone thought this scandal couldn't get any worse, something happened that no one expected. Destiny took an unexpected turn, and this is where everything exploded. Just when it seemed like Carlos King's reputation couldn't take any more hits, an anonymous whistleblower came forward with even more shocking claims. This person, who had allegedly worked closely with Carlos on multiple reality shows, revealed that Melody wasn't the only one he had manipulated. You won't believe this, but according to the whistleblower, Carlos had been recycling the same toxic formula across multiple shows. They claimed that he had a pattern of targeting strong female leads, building them up as the face of the show, and then, when the time was right, tearing them down by controlling the narrative. This revelation had fans digging deep, pulling up old clips, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage from Carlos's previous projects. And suddenly, it all started making sense. But here is the shocking part. One of Carlos's former cast members from another reality show stepped forward and confirmed everything. This reality star, who had once been one of Carlos's biggest supporters, publicly admitted that they too had felt manipulated and betrayed by him. They claimed that Carlos had deliberately set them up in a negative storyline, edited their footage in a misleading way, and even planted false rumors about them to boost ratings. This changed everything. Fans now saw a pattern, and it wasn't just about Melody anymore. It was about every reality star who had ever worked with Carlos King. The internet erupted, calling for boycotts, demanding that networks cut ties with him, and questioning the ethics of reality TV production as a whole. And then, the craziest part, Carlos King disappeared from social media. For a man who had always been loud, proud, and deeply involved in online discussions about his shows, his sudden silence was deafening. No more cryptic tweets, no more Instagram posts, nothing. People started asking, was he afraid? Was he guilty? Or was he just waiting for the storm to pass? But this is where it gets even more interesting, because while Carlos stayed silent, the network finally responded. At first, they released a generic statement saying that they took all accusations seriously and were looking into the situation. But that wasn't enough for the fans. They wanted real accountability, and they weren't going to let the network sweep this under the rug. The pressure was intense, and insiders started whispering that executives were now debating Carlos's future with the network. And then, out of nowhere, a former producer who had worked with Carlos broke their silence. They didn't just confirm the allegations against Carlos, they provided even more shocking details about how reality TV producers manipulate storylines, control cast members, and create fake drama to keep audiences hooked. They admitted that what happened to Melody had happened to others and would continue happening unless major changes were made in the industry. Fans were left stunned. If even producers were speaking out, what else was going to come to light? And just when it seemed like things couldn't escalate any further, Melody made her next move.